Abandoned in the middle of nowhere by the people he loved, Mike's road to recovery begins with betrayal. With nothing but his willpower and determination, he transforms his life, finding peace and purpose where he least expected. Will he rise above the past, or will the ghosts of his former life pull him back? Hi everyone, I'm David, the storyteller on the Family Tales channel. Here, I'll share stories about love, conflicts, betrayal, and infidelity within American families. These stories offer a deep look into relationships and the challenges families face. Stay tuned and explore with me. If you love emotional stories and want to uncover the hidden secrets in families, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our videos. I stood there in the glaring Colorado sun, narrowing my eyes at the vacant space where our car had been merely 10 minutes earlier. Chloe, my wife, along with her friends Isla, Stephanie, and Lauren, had disappeared. Initially, I believed it was just another one of their ridiculous jokes. They constantly engaged in antics like this, challenging limits, probing how far I could be pushed before I broke. After 5 years of marriage, I had become accustomed to their antics, the way they would chuckle at my expense, and how Chloe would participate rather than defend me. However, this experience was unique. My phone remained connected to the car charger, while my wallet was safely stored in the glove box. All I had was the worn t-shirt and jeans I was wearing, and an increasing unease in my stomach as the minutes passed. We had been on this road trip to Stephanie's lake house for 3 days, and I had felt miserable the entire time. Chloe pleaded with me to join, claiming it would be an opportunity to connect with her team. I wasn't really into the idea. Her friends consistently made me feel like an outsider, throwing around jabs and inside jokes that excluded me. Yet I still attended, because my love for her was strong. Or at least, that was my impression. The gas station sat isolated, a mere speck of civilization along the highway, featuring a flickering sign and a lone pump amidst the dust. I stepped inside to use the bathroom, assuming they would hold on for a moment. They consistently held on, but this time, they did not. 60 minutes went by. I walked along the uneven pavement, nudging stones with my foot, convincing myself they would return at any moment. The sound of tires on gravel, Chloe's voice ringing out, "Gotcha." Yet, the road remained silent. After 2 hours, sweat was running down my neck, and my throat felt parched. I found myself going over the past few days repeatedly in my mind. Stephanie's smirk, when she accidentally spilled coffee on my lap, was unforgettable. Lauren leaned in and whispered something to Chloe, causing her to giggle as she stole a glance in my direction. Isla observed everything with that self-satisfied little smile. I ought to have anticipated it. They had been preparing for something significant, and I had been too oblivious to see it coming. A truck arrived, its engine growling powerfully, jolting me from my reverie. The driver, a hefty man sporting a grey beard and a worn ball cap, leaned out the window. "Are you doing all right, my friend? I've been standing here for quite some time." His voice had a gritty warmth, and it struck me with unexpected force. I was not all right. They were not returning. Chloe had made her choice to stay away. I took a deep breath, attempting to maintain my composure. "Yeah, my ride ditched me. Do you believe you can assist?" He nodded, as if this wasn't the first time he had encountered someone stuck out here. "Get in." "Where are you going?" I had no idea. "Welcome to your sanctuary." Returning to Chloe, the life we created. As I settled into the cab, a change stirred within me. 5 years of her mocking me, dismissing me, allowing her friends to treat me poorly. Everything surged forward, intense and overwhelming. I gazed out the window, watching the gas station diminish in the side mirror. The trucker remained quiet, focused on the road ahead, softly humming a classic country tune. My hands tightened into fists on my lap. I might have taken his phone, reached out to Chloe, and insisted on getting answers. But what might she express? It was just a joke, sweetheart. Try not to take things too personally. I was already familiar with everything being said. Whenever I expressed my concerns about her friends, she would simply roll her eyes and insist that I just didn't understand their sense of humor. Perhaps I did not. Perhaps I never will. Yet, as I stood there by myself, forsaken like a lost pup, a realization dawned on me. They also didn't manage to get me. What about Chloe? She would choose them over me, time and time again. The trucker let me out at a crossroad, directing me toward Grand Junction, the closest town. "Best of luck, buddy," he remarked, adjusting his cap. I nodded, feeling a constriction in my throat, and began to walk. The soles of my shoes brushed against the earth, while the sun blazed overhead. Without a phone, without funds, without a strategy. It's just me and the endless highway ahead. A part of me wished to go back, to plead with someone at the gas station to reach out to her, to make things right. Yet there was another voice, a more powerful one, urging me onward. I was finished being the joke, finished being the person they mocked. Chloe and her friends believed they had triumphed, believed they had defeated me. As I made my way toward Grand Junction, an unusual sense of tranquility enveloped me. I remained unbroken. They had liberated me. I had no idea what awaited me in that town. I was uncertain about how I would find food, where I would rest, or how I would manage with nothing at all. For the first time in years, I felt no fear about Chloe's opinion. I had no concerns about what her friend would do next. I was on my own, sure, but I wasn't powerless. The path lay before me, vast and unoccupied, and I continued my journey. They abandoned me, but perhaps that was the wisest choice they could have made. Perhaps this was my opportunity to discover my identity apart from her, apart from them. As the sun began to set, casting an orange hue across the sky, I had come to a decision. I had no intention of returning. Not for Chloe, not for that existence. Whatever lay ahead, it was up to me to create. I found myself at that dusty intersection where the trucker had let me out, the Colorado wind swirling tiny clouds of dirt around my feet. Grand Junction lay somewhere in the distance, yet I found myself without a map, a phone, or even a penny to my name. Only the garments I wear and a mind swirling with thoughts. Chloe and her friends had abandoned me, and a part of me still yearned to reach out, to hear her voice, to insist she come back. But then I recalled the way she had laughed when Stephanie accidentally spilled my beer at the lake house, how she had shrugged when I requested her support. 5 years of that. 5 years of experiencing life as a visitor in my own marriage. I wasn't calling her no. This isn't the moment. I began my stroll toward town, the sound of my sneakers crunching on the gravel beneath me. The sun blazed overhead, scorching the earth, and my shirt was drenched in sweat. I was unsure of the distance to Grand Junction, likely in miles, but it didn't matter to me. Each step seemed to be a decision, as if I was gradually leaving her behind with every footprint I made. My thoughts wandered back to the gas station, to the instant I emerged from that filthy bathroom and found only barren pavement before me. They had it all figured out, right? Chloe, Stephanie, Isla, and Lauren were all laughing in the car as they sped away, thinking it would be funny to leave me behind. I could nearly hear Chloe's voice, reassuring me that he would find a way, just like he always does. Well, I'm working on it now, just not in the way she anticipated. A pickup truck rolled past, and I extended my thumb, wishing for a ride. The driver, a man sporting a scruffy beard and a worn flannel shirt, eased off the accelerator and leaned out the window, looking for a lift. He looked at me, as if he couldn't quite decide whether I was a source of trouble. "Yeah, I'm on my way to Grand Junction," I replied, maintaining a calm tone. He gave a slight nod. "Get in. I'm heading in that direction." I settled into the passenger seat, thankful for the pause. The taxi reeked of oil and cigarettes, yet it was better than walking. "What's your narrative?" he inquired as we cruised along the highway. I paused for a moment, then gave a casual shrug. I was abandoned by individuals I believed I could rely on. He let out a low grunt, as if he was all too familiar with that line. It occurs more often than you might expect in this place. He let me out on the outskirts of Grand Junction, close to a group of small buildings and a flashing traffic signal. "Be safe, buddy," he said, and drove away. I remained in place, absorbing the moment. A quaint town featuring a blend of historic brick storefronts alongside modern chain shops. Individuals moving through their daily routines as if everything was perfectly fine. However, nothing seemed to go right for me. Wallet not available. Without identification, there was no means to verify my identity. I required assistance, and I needed it quickly. I noticed a sign for a homeless shelter just a few blocks away, a simple building featuring a cross on its side. The thought made my stomach churn. Me in a refuge. What options were available to me? The interior was poorly lit, with a scent of bleach mingling with that of old coffee. A man at the counter glanced up. Roy, as indicated on his name tag. He appeared to be in his 50s, sporting a shaved head and an unwavering, serious gaze. "Did you lose it, or is it just broken?" he inquired, assessing me closely. I confessed, rubbing the back of my neck. "Left stranded on the highway. Funds are unavailable. There is no phone. Zero." Roy remained unblinking. "It occurs. Do you have a name?" "Absolutely. Hey, Mike. I mentioned thinking it would be simpler to remain honest for the time being." He passed me a clipboard containing a form. "Please complete this form. We'll arrange a place for you to sleep tonight. We'll sort out the remaining details tomorrow." That evening, I found myself on a cot in a room filled with the sounds of snoring strangers, gazing up at the ceiling. My thoughts just wouldn't quiet down. Chloe's face kept appearing, her voice, her laughter. I felt a strong urge to despise her, yet a part of me still longed for her presence, hoping she would appear and declare it had all been a misunderstanding. However, Roy's words lingered in my mind. "We'll sort out the remaining details tomorrow." He was serious about it. The following morning, he settled me in with a cup of diluted coffee and a strategy. ID is essential for any task, whether it's for a job, banking, or anything else. It may take some time, but we will initiate the process. In the meantime, you require funds. I nodded, sensing my own inadequacy. "No jobs available anywhere?" I inquired. Roy grinned slyly. "A diner is located just down the street. The owner is a formidable, seasoned woman named Jacqueline. Let her know I referred you." The diner was a cozy spot named Jackie's, featuring red vinyl booths and a jukebox tucked away in the corner. Jacqueline stood behind the counter, a lean woman in her 60s, adorned with tattoos winding up her arms, and a voice that was rough and gravelly. "Roy mentioned that you could use some assistance," she remarked, her gaze fixed on the counter as she continued to wipe it down. "Absolutely, I do," I responded, adjusting my stance. "Whatever you have." She narrowed her eyes at me, as if attempting to look right into my soul. The dishwasher stopped working yesterday. Low pay, extended hours. If you take from me, you won't survive. Begin immediately. I blinked, surprised, but nodded in agreement. All right, count me in. She threw me an apron, and suddenly, I found myself scrubbing plates in the back, my hands submerged in hot water. It may not have been a lot, but it was something that belonged to me. Just me, a pile of greasy dishes, and no Chloe or friends to share a laugh with. Later that week, Roy checked in and assisted me with filing for a replacement ID. "You're doing just fine, Mike," he said, giving me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. I had my doubts, yet I persevered. The shelter transformed into my sanctuary, while Jacqueline's diner served as my essential support. I didn't reach out to Chloe, not even once. Each night, I drifted off to sleep feeling worn out, yet it was a satisfying sort of fatigue. I was beginning anew, with nothing to my name, and it seemed like perhaps, just perhaps, I could find a way to succeed. Each morning, I found myself on that cot in the shelter, greeted by the familiar ache in my back and the constant hum of snores and coughs from the other men nearby. A few weeks had passed since Chloe and her friends left me behind at that gas station, and I was still adjusting to this new reality. Washing dishes at Jacqueline's diner, resting on a borrowed mattress, donning a tire from a donation bin. My hands were sore from the scalding water and soap, but I didn't care. It occupied my time, distracted me from thoughts of her. Roy had been a steadfast support, guiding me through the chaos of obtaining a new ID. "It requires patience," he mentioned, giving me a pile of paperwork, "but you'll make it." I acknowledged his rough kindness with a nod and continued to press on. The diner had become my entire universe. Jacqueline was all business. She commanded from the counter, her keen gaze spotting every error. "Hurry up, Mike, we don't have all day," she would shout, but her tone lacked any real malice. I took on double shifts whenever possible, stacking up cash in a small envelope I kept hidden under my cot. My initial paycheck was modest, yet it was sufficient to purchase an inexpensive prepaid phone from the gas station nearby. I grasped it in my hands, the plastic gleaming, and experienced a surge of what felt like pride. It may not have been extravagant, but it was truly mine, purchased with my own hard-earned cash, not from Chloe or anyone else. She was no longer necessary for me. Next, the call commenced. I had the phone for just one day when it buzzed in my pocket while I was deep in soapy water. I cleaned my hands on my apron and took it off. Chloe's number appeared on the display. My stomach sank. I allowed it to ring, eyeing it as if it could snap at me, until it finally redirected to voicemail. A moment later, the alert appeared. I knew better, yet I went ahead and listened. Her voice emerged, gentle and trembling, as if she had rehearsed her words. "Hey, Mike, where are you at? We were anticipating your arrival. It was merely a jest. We're extremely concerned. Kindly return my call." I remained in place, gazing at the sink, the water continuing to flow, feeling anxious. I was abandoned in a desolate place, completely empty-handed. If they had just been patient, they would have returned by now. The phone vibrated once more, this time from Stephanie. I pressed play on her voicemail, and her tone was completely changed, all self-satisfied and laid back. "Let's go, man. One must acknowledge it was quite amusing. Please return our call, okay? Absolutely funny." I gripped the phone tightly, my knuckles turning pale. That was my role for them. A clever twist, a tale to chuckle over while sipping drinks at the lake house. Subsequent calls followed after that, a surge of them. Chloe again, followed by Lauren, then Stephanie, accumulating texts and voicemails. We long for your presence. Where did you disappear to? This has lost its humor. I went through each one, feeling a tightness in my chest and a whirl of thoughts in my mind. Chloe's voice resonated continuously. Insincere worry, insincere emotions. She was indifferent. Not a single one did. That night, I found myself on my cot, surrounded by the stillness of the shelter, broken only by the creaking springs and the soft hum of the heater. The device illuminated in my grasp, their texts brightening the display. I revisited Chloe's initial one, followed by Stephanie's, and then there was Lauren's, which ended abruptly after just her laughter. I hesitated, my thumb poised above the call button. A part of me felt the urge to call Chloe, to unleash my frustration, to demand an explanation for her actions. But what difference would it make? She would simply brush it aside with laughter, or shed tears to evoke guilt in me, just as she always managed to do. I had endured their nonsense for years, putting on a smile because I believed that was the role of a good husband. That's a thing of the past. I reviewed the list. Chloe, Stephanie, Isla, Lauren, and shut down every last one. My fingers trembled slightly as I completed the task, but once it was finished, the phone fell silent. Say goodbye to the noise. Say goodbye to the deception. I reclined against the wall, exhaling a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. It was as if I was severing a cord that had ensnared me for ages. They are unable to contact me at this moment. The conclusion was not theirs to determine. I did. The following day, I returned to the diner as if everything was normal, submerging my hands in the dishwater, allowing the warmth to erase the remnants of their voices from my mind. Jacqueline sensed that something wasn't quite right, however. "You're awfully quiet today," she remarked, tossing me a rag to clean the counter. I just shrugged, not wanting to dive into that topic. "I'm currently organizing a few things." She let out a snort. "As long as it doesn't interfere with my kitchen, feel free to sort it out." I couldn't help but smirk at that. She was only focused on the work, not my issues. It was invigorating. Roy came by later, giving me a paper that had a case number for my ID. "It's progressing," he mentioned. "Are you managing okay?" I agreed with a nod. "Absolutely. It's exceeded my expectations." He gave me a friendly pat on the shoulder and walked away, leaving me to handle things on my own. By the end of the week, I had gathered enough to purchase a pre-owned jacket from the donation pile at the shelter. It wasn't extravagant, but it did the job of keeping the cold at bay. Each night, I returned to my cot, the prepaid phone quiet in my pocket, and I felt a sense of lightness. Chloe and her friends had vanished, eliminated like an undesirable routine. Their apologies and excuses were unnecessary for me. I had my job, my bed, my plan, little things, but they belonged to me. The pain lingered, undeniably, the sharpness of betrayal, yet it was diminishing. With each dish I cleaned and every dollar I saved, I was creating something fresh, something beyond their reach. For the first time in ages, I drifted off, without visions of her haunting my mind. After months at the diner, everything was beginning to settle into a comfortable routine. Not flawless, but consistent. Though the shelter remained my home, I had managed to save enough to transition into a small studio situated above a laundromat in Grand Junction. It was a modest space, merely a single room featuring a lumpy mattress, a hot plate, and a bathroom so cramped that I could hardly move in it. However, it belonged to me. Gone are the cots, the snoring neighbors. Now I have a key in my pocket and a door I can secure. Jacqueline noticed my hard work at the diner and promoted me to prep cook, leading to increased hours and a bit more money. In the back, I'd slice onions and peel potatoes, the steady rhythm of the knife engaging my hands and calming my thoughts. It was challenging, yet it brought a sense of satisfaction, as if I was truly achieving something meaningful. The nights remained challenging, however. I would lie on that old mattress, gazing at the water stains on the ceiling, and Chloe would quietly invade my thoughts. I remember her smile, the sound of her laughter. Not the harsh one she shared with others, but the gentle one reserved for me during the good times, before I became the target of her frustrations. I found myself questioning what she was up to, whether she thought of me, and if I mattered to her at all. Sometimes, the solitude felt overwhelming, a heavy burden in my heart that lingered. Yet with the dawn, I would rise, slip into my jacket, and make my way to the diner. Without the weight of her judgment, without the sting of her friends' remarks, it's just me, liberated to breathe, liberated to exist. After a long shift one night, I found myself fiddling with my prepaid phone, feeling bored and restless. I had maintained a straightforward approach, avoiding connections and remnants of the past. Yet my curiosity ultimately prevailed. I created a fictitious social media profile with a random name and no photo, and searched for her. Chloe's profile appeared, remaining public, still showcasing her flawless little life. Photos captured from the lake house getaway show her and Stephanie striking a pose by the water, while Isla beams with a drink in hand. Then I came across it, a post regarding me. It was a picture of us from years past, grinning at a picnic, and her caption struck me like a jolt. Longing for my love. I hope he returns to me soon. I gazed at it, my thumb immobilized on the display. Thinking of me. She didn't even come back for me. She had taken off, abandoning me to wither away. I nearly chuckled, right there in that shabby apartment, the noise echoing off the empty walls. It felt completely insincere, just like Chloe, portraying herself as the victim, as if I had strayed away on my own rather than being left behind. I went through the comments, with Stephanie reassuring, "He'll show up, no need to stress. Lauren here, sending you hugs," and my stomach churned. Everyone was involved, acting as if I was the villain in this scenario. I hung up the phone and flung it onto the bed, raking my fingers through my hair. She remained the same. Not a single one did. However, I did. I was no longer the person in that picnic photo, the one who would smile and endure while they criticized me. I had transformed into a stranger, a person they no longer recognized. The following day at the diner, I found myself more subdued than normal, still processing what I had witnessed. Jacqueline was aware, as she always was. "You look like someone kicked your dog," she remarked, sliding a plate of fries my way during a lull in the conversation. I let out a small sigh, absent-mindedly poking at the meal in front of me, overthinking again. She arched an eyebrow, her inked arms folded. "What's the topic?" "Your former partner." I was taken aback, astonished that she had figured it out. I had never shared the complete story with her, only fragments here and there. Indeed, I acknowledged it. Came across something on the internet. "She's behaving as if she's the one who's been wronged." Jacqueline let out a loud, sharp snort. "Seems like quite the character. Farewell, young one." I gave a slight nod, accompanied by a faint smile. She was correct. Farewell and good luck. My job provided stability. I would chop vegetables, turn burgers when the chef required assistance, clean the counters, whatever it took to stay active. The diner was filled with familiar faces, people who would give me a nod or leave a few dollars behind, and that brought a sense of belonging, as if I was woven into the fabric of it all. My hands had become rough, my arms more powerful from lifting crates and cleaning pans. At times, I'd glimpse my reflection in the glass door of the diner. Weary gaze, tousled locks, yet a man pushing through, one day at a time. Chloe's post slipped away from my thoughts, overtaken by the sound of clattering plates and Jacqueline's commanding voice barking out orders. I ceased looking at her social media after that. No need to. No matter what she was saying or the tale she was weaving, it was irrelevant. I had my studio, my job, my life, small, yes, but on the rise. The solitude still lingered, particularly during still nights when the laundromat below buzzed and clattered, yet it no longer felt as piercing. I would rise to the scent of detergent wafting through the floorboards, slip on my boots, and step out into the brisk morning air. There was no one there to ridicule me, no one there to dismiss my every statement. I could simply be Mike, just Mike, and that was sufficient. After a long time, I finally felt stable, no longer trapped in uncertainty. Freedom was subtle and understated. It was my key, my paycheck, my choice. I had no intention of returning it. I had been residing above the laundromat for some time, getting comfortable in a routine that truly felt like my own. Work at the diner, save my money, rest in my own place. The days merged into one another, yet they were pleasant days, consistent and reliable. Then she entered, Sienna. She began visiting Jacqueline's diner 2 times a week, consistently choosing the same booth by the window, always accompanied by a pile of textbooks and a pen in her hand. She seemed to be a med student, judging by the way she quietly repeated medical terms while jotting down notes. Her order remained the same: Denver omelette, no tomatoes, extra coffee. She hardly glanced up when I delivered it to her. Sometimes I would observe her, finding it amusing how she would become so engrossed in her studying that her fork would linger halfway to her mouth for a whole minute before she realized. I'm not sure what prompted me to engage with her. Perhaps it was boredom, or maybe I was just curious to see if I could make her smile. I would replace my name tag with various made-up names, like Bob one day, Steve the next, and Carl after that, just to see if she would notice. Initially, she was too engrossed in her books to notice, but one morning, I approached her with Rusty attached to my shirt, and at last, she glanced up. She narrowed her eyes, glancing at the tag before returning her gaze to my face. She gave a slight smirk before returning to her notes. That was the moment, our first genuine connection, and it lingered in my mind. Amidst the busyness of work, Sienna emerged as the shining star of my week. She would arrive, request her regular order, and I'd come up with reasons to stop by her table, top off her coffee, clear away her plate, and check if she needed anything. She would nod or murmur a thank you. Yet that smirk lingered in my mind, almost as if it were a dare. One day, she walked in, appearing overwhelmed, her hair disheveled, her books feeling weightier than normal. It was a tough night, I said, placing her coffee on the table. She let out a deep breath, massaging her eyelids. Assessments. It's been 2 days since I last slept. I acknowledged her without pressing the issue, but discreetly added an extra hash brown to her plate while she was distracted. She caught my eye, looked up at me and remarked, "You're quite the trickster." I merely shrugged. "Must find a way to keep you alert. We didn't even plan our first date." One evening, she walked in, looking sharp in jeans and a stylish top instead of her usual sweatshirt. She mentioned that her friends had canceled their reservation at a fancy pizza place across town. "I'm not wasting it," she said, half to herself, then turned her gaze toward me. "You weirdo." As I cleaned the counter, nearing the end of my shift, Jacqueline was within earshot. "Get going, kid," she snapped, shooing me away. "You're not helpful just sitting there feeling sorry for yourself." I decided to go. We shared a pepperoni pizza and a pitcher of soda, and she burst into genuine laughter when I mentioned the name tag incident. She insisted it wasn't Rusty, her eyes shining with confidence. You're still quite young." We chatted through the night, discussing her med school pressures, my diner job, and silly things like our favorite films. It felt effortless, instinctive, as if we had been connected for a lifetime. Half a year later, she settled into my cozy studio. The space was tight. Her books occupied so much room, and we constantly bumped into one another while trying to cook on that little hot plate. But it didn't bother me at all. She would stay up late, the light from her lamp illuminating the room as I slept, and I'd awaken to her softly murmuring anatomy terms in her dreams. It had an oddly soothing quality. A year later, we moved into a larger space, a genuine apartment complete with a kitchen and a couch that was free from the scent of bleach. Sienna stood apart from Chloe. She treated me with respect, never belittling me. In moments of self-doubt, she'd simply say, "You've got this," and somehow I would find the belief within me. We would prepare meals side by side, enjoy classic television series, and bicker about who was responsible for the dirty dishes in the sink. It was straightforward, yet it belonged to us. In the meantime, Chloe held on tight. She began reaching out to me via email, having somehow discovered my address, likely from an old bill or something similar. A few weeks after Sienna settled in, the first one appeared on my phone while I was slicing peppers at the diner. "Mike, I just want to check in and see if you're all right," it said. "I long for your presence. Everyone does." I gazed at it, my knife poised above the cutting board. Thinking of me. She abandoned me at a gas station, left me with nothing, laughed it off with her friends, and now suddenly she misses me. I removed it without responding. Additional words followed, varying in length, each one oozing with the artificial charm she had perfected. "I realize I made a mistake. I would love to hear from you. Your grandmother is concerned." I noticed that when I saw her, I would read them, experience that familiar pain in my heart, then press erase. Sienna spotted me once, scowling at my phone. "Who is that?" she inquired. "No one," I stated, and she didn't press further. She had no reason to. I wasn't returning. Life with Sienna was great, even more fulfilling than I ever imagined I could have. The diner buzzed with life. My hands moved with precision, and Chloe's emails faded into the background, easily ignored. I had created something fresh, something strong, and each day with Sienna confirmed it. She would playfully mock my cooking. I would chuckle at her awful singing, and we'd drift off to sleep intertwined on that thrifted couch. Chloe could write to her heart's content. I owed her nothing at all. My universe was right here with Sienna, and I refused to let it slip away. I found myself in the kitchen of Jacqueline's diner, turning a burger on the grill, the sound of sizzling surrounding me as grease spat against my apron. Everything had been going well, exceptional, truly. Sienna and I had made ourselves at home in our new apartment, a definite upgrade from the tiny studio above the laundromat. It featured a genuine bedroom, a stove that operated without smoke, and a window that allowed in real sunlight. Life felt stable, as if I had finally emerged from the pit that Chloe and her friends had left me in. Work was consistent as well. I had been at the diner long enough for Jacqueline to rely on me for more than just washing dishes and preparing food. She began to rely on me, growling less and agreeing more when I accomplished tasks correctly. On that particular day, she beckoned me to the counter during a quiet moment. Her piercing gaze fixed on me as if she was on the verge of revealing something significant. "Mike," she said, cleaning her hands with a rag. "You're doing pretty well at this." I smirked, believing she was just playing around, yet her expression remained unwavering. "I'm launching a second location across town, a cozier place, but it's all mine, looking for someone to take charge of it. Are you in?" I stood still, spatula poised, as the burger sizzled away behind me. "Who? Me? Operate a diner?" I had transitioned from washing dishes to preparing meals, but overseeing an entire establishment. "Are you for real?" I inquired, my tone harsher than I intended. She let out a snort. "Do I seem like I'm joking? You have the skills. Put in the effort, avoid taking what's not yours, and refrain from complaining. Respond with either yes or no." My mind whirled. A year ago, I found myself abandoned at a gas station, completely empty-handed. I was being presented with this opportunity. I nearly declined, certain it was just another one of Chloe's tricks, reminiscent of her pranks from before. That evening, I found myself on our couch, Sienna's and mine, gazing at the TV without truly paying attention. She returned home from a late study session, tossed her bag by the door, and noticed me just sitting there. "Hey there," she inquired, tossing her shoes aside. I shared Jacqueline's offer with her, my voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking it aloud could somehow ruin it. "She wants me to manage her new diner. I'm the one in control." Sienna settled beside me, her knee lightly touching mine. "So, you're considering rejecting it," she remarked, perceiving me as she always does. I shrugged, massaging my neck. "I'm unsure. What if I mess it up?" She took my hand, her hold strong. "You're already managing that place most of the time, assisting with orders and troubleshooting when she's directing her frustration at someone else. Simply formalize it. You can do it." Her words struck me deeply, like a push I never realized I required. She had complete faith in me, not even for a moment. That experience was refreshing, unusual, yet positive. Chloe would have chuckled and remarked something along the lines of, "You? A leader?" and her friends would have jumped in. Yet Sienna gazed at me, unwavering and confident, and I gave a nod. "All right. I will take care of it." She smiled, that little smile I adored, and rested her head on my shoulder. "Excellent. It's time to stop sulking. There are dishes that need our attention." I chuckled, feeling a bit lighter as we cleaned the dishes side by side, her off-key humming filling the air while I playfully splashed water at her. The following day, I agreed with Jacqueline. She let out a grunt, as if it was anticipated, and passed me a set of keys. "Don't set it ablaze," she remarked, then returned to tallying the money. The new diner was a cozy little gem tucked away. 10 tables, a counter, a kitchen just spacious enough for two, yet it was my responsibility to manage. The following week began with me organizing schedules, placing supply orders, and cooking during the busy rush. Initially, it was complete mayhem, with waitresses misplacing orders and me accidentally scorching a batch of fries, but I managed to get it under control. Sienna was correct. I've been engaged in this work already, just without the official designation. The atmosphere began to buzz, familiar faces arriving one by one, and Jacqueline even made an appearance, giving a nod of approval. "Not bad, kid," she remarked, and I felt more elevated than I had in years. Then the email from Chloe arrived. I was at the new diner, looking at inventory on my phone, when it suddenly appeared. "Hey Mike, your grandma has been inquiring about you. We would appreciate it if you could confirm your well-being." My stomach churned. Grandma. She had always been kind, sending me cards even after I tied the knot with Chloe. But Chloe mentioning her now. It was a low blow, a bait to draw me back in. I imagined her sitting there, typing away with feigned tears in her eyes, attempting to manipulate me, as she always does. I removed it, my thumb hitting the screen with more force than necessary. She couldn't leverage Grandma against me, not after everything she had done. I hadn't reached out to home in some time, that's true, but I'd handle that on my own, not through her. I dove into the diner after that, keeping my hands occupied to prevent my mind from drifting. The atmosphere was lively, with truckers dropping in and locals engaging me in conversation as if I belonged there. I would arrive home to find Sienna at our table, her books scattered around, and she would inquire about my day. I'd say it's good, and I truly mean that. We'd prepare dinner, nothing extravagant, just pasta or burgers, and chat about her classes, my day, and what lies ahead. Chloe's emails kept arriving, accumulating in my trash folder, yet I chose not to open them. She was an apparition, a silhouette I could overlook. My existence revolved around this place, the diner, Sienna, and the keys resting in my pocket. I had experienced abandonment before, left to navigate my own path, and I succeeded. Now I was creating something superior, something beyond their reach. Each evening, I secured the diner, made my way home to Sienna, and experienced the sensation of a man who had truly discovered his place. As I was flipping eggs in the kitchen of my third diner, located on the outskirts of town, my phone buzzed in my pocket. The morning hustle was alive, with truckers calling out for coffee, waitresses weaving through tables, and I nearly overlooked it all. 15 years transformed me into someone entirely new. Sienna and I tied the knot, with 2 kids running wild in our home and 3 diner locations keeping me on my toes. Life was vibrant, bustling, complete. Nothing like the hollow shell I had become when Chloe abandoned me at that gas station. I cleaned my hands on my apron, took out my phone, and there it was, a notification from LinkedIn. Your profile received 27 views today. My stomach flipped a bit. I haven't really engaged with LinkedIn. I just have a simple profile featuring my name, the diners, and a fuzzy photo that Sienna insisted I take. Really, 27 times. That was unusual. I opened it with a tap, the grill hissing in the background, and there she stood, Chloe. Seeing her name felt like a sudden jolt, a stark reminder on the screen, linked to a company that held no interest for me. 27 views in a single day. She had been sifting through my life repeatedly. I placed the phone on the counter, my hands clutching the surface as I attempted to regain my composure. 15 years had passed, and there she was again, slipping in like a shadow I believed I had left behind. I turned the eggs, hardly paying attention, my thoughts swirling. What was it that she desired? What's the reason for this timing? I had cut off her emails long ago, brushed aside her attempts to manipulate my feelings, and created an entire life, independent of her presence. Yet here she was, exploring quietly, yet making a ruckus in my mind. The aroma of bacon and syrup filled the air, while the sound of clattering plates anchored me in the moment. I arranged the eggs on the plate, passed them to a waitress, and attempted to concentrate. The coffee was running low. The hash browns were on the verge of burning, yet Chloe's name lingered in my mind. I imagined her in a quiet spot, browsing through my profile, glancing at the diners, perhaps even recalling the old job at Jacqueline's that I had mentioned. Was she aware of Sienna? What about the kids? I hadn't shared a lot, just enough to seem credible. But 27 views indicated she was really paying attention. I wiped the sweat from my forehead, feeling the heat, and picked up my phone once more. Chloe's profile gazed back, older now, with her hair cut short and a tight smile captured in the photo. It stated, "Consultant." I chose not to read further, as I had no desire to do so. I entered the back, a small storeroom filled with shelves of flour and canned goods, and rested against the wall. My heart raced uncontrollably, as if I had just sprinted a mile. 15 years, 2 kids, a wife, a business, and she still had the power to shake me up. I really disliked that. I had put in so much effort to conceal her, to erase the memories of the gas station, the laughter, the way she had made me feel insignificant. She had returned, silent and simply observing. Did she feel envious? Angry? In need of help? I ran my fingers through my hair, moving back and forth in the tight area. A part of me felt compelled to reach out and ask, "What's your deal?" However, I held back. That's exactly what she would want. Me extending a hand, providing her with an opportunity to escape. I returned to the grill, immersing myself in the hustle, cooking, pouring, and cleaning tables as the waitresses became overwhelmed. The familiar faces acknowledged me with a nod. A guy requested extra ketchup, and I continued on, keeping my hands occupied. Yet she lingered, tucked away in my thoughts. Those 27 views, like an itch I couldn't relieve. I kept it to myself when I returned home that night, not mentioning it to Sienna. She sat on the couch, folding laundry, while the kids upstairs were shouting about some game. "It was a hectic day," she inquired, looking up. "Sure," I replied, managing a smile as I pressed a kiss to her forehead. Just the usual. She simply handed me a stack of socks to sort, and I sat there, folding them, acting as if everything was okay. The house radiated warmth, filled with the enticing aroma of dinner, chicken and rice, Sienna's favorite. The kids rushed in, eagerly pleading for dessert. I chuckled, declined, and felt at ease for a moment. Yet Chloe remained, an apparition I couldn't escape. I refrained from checking LinkedIn again. I had no desire to find out if she had looked further. 27 was sufficient. I assisted Sienna with the dishes, feeling her hip brush against mine, and made an effort to move past it. My existence revolved around this: 2 children squabbling for the final cookie, a spouse who never found humor in my antics, and diners I had created from the ground up. Chloe was unable to engage with that, not truly. Even so, I lay in bed with her name swirling in my thoughts, gazing at the ceiling while Sienna rested next to me. The following day, I found myself at the initial diner, pouring coffee, when my phone buzzed once more. I didn't glance, just pushed it further into my pocket. If it were her, I preferred to remain unaware. After years of keeping her at bay, here she was, knocking softly yet persistently. I concentrated on the tasks at hand, managing the grill, the counter, and the cash register, ensuring my hands were always in motion and my voice remained calm. She was out there, somewhere, while I remained here, standing strong. No matter what she desired or the game she was trying to play, I wasn't taking the bait. Not at this moment. Never, if I can avoid it. I was cleaning the counter at the original diner, the place where Jacqueline first brought me on board, when the door jingled and in walked Chloe, Stephanie, and Isla. 3 days had passed since those LinkedIn alerts, and I found myself on edge, half anticipating something like this. The breakfast rush had just subsided, with a few familiar faces leisurely enjoying their coffee, the atmosphere heavy with the scent of grease and charred toast. I noticed them before they noticed me. Chloe's short hair glinting in the light, Stephanie's confident stride still intact, Isla curled up as if she wished to vanish. My stomach knotted, hands stiff on the cloth. 15 years had passed since they abandoned me at that gas station, and now they stood before me, in my diner, my territory. I remained still, observing as they chose a booth by the window and settled in, their voices soft, yet recognizable. I could have remained seated, allowing the waitress to take care of it, but something compelled me to step outside. Perhaps frustration, or simply the urge to see it to the end. I picked up a pot of coffee, mostly just to have something in my hands, and made my way over. Chloe was the first to notice me, her eyes widening and her mouth falling open in surprise. "Oh my God, it's you!" she exclaimed, her voice trembling, as if she hadn't practiced it beforehand. Stephanie reclined, her trademark smirk in place. "Hey, check you out, superstar." Isla looked up briefly, then quickly averted her gaze, her fingers nervously playing with the menu. I stood there, coffee pot in hand, gazing at them, older, weary, and unexpectedly desperate. "What is it that you desire?" I inquired, brevity in my words, my tone firmer than my emotions suggested. Chloe leaned in, her fingers intertwining as she shifted her position. "Hey Mike, do you have a moment to chat? Kindly." I remained standing, unyielding. "I'm currently engaged in work." "Communicate." She took a deep breath, looking at Stephanie for support, and then began. "Hey, we could really use your assistance." It poured forth. Her world had shattered. Her creative venture collapsed. Her marriage to a stranger unraveled, and now she found herself destitute, pleading for help. Stephanie leaped in, nonchalantly, as if it were nothing out of the ordinary. "Hope you're holding up well. 3 guests. We could really use some help, just like we used to." Isla gave a slight nod, her response almost a whisper. Just a small assist. I absorbed it all. Chloe's heartbreaking tale, Stephanie's allure, Isla's remorse. They had it all figured out, located me, assumed I would give in. I remained in place, the coffee pot warm in my hand, observing their discomfort. Chloe's eyes glistened. Stephanie's smirk faltered. Isla tore at the edge of her menu. I recalled her checking my LinkedIn. 27 views. And now she's here, expecting I'd give in like I used to. "Stay put," I instructed, turning my back. I made my way to the office, a tight space featuring a desk and a pile of receipts, my boots thudding against the floor. They sought money, having left me with nothing, chuckling about it, as if I would simply give it to them. I took a seat, the chair groaning beneath me, and gazed at the wall. My hands trembled slightly, not out of fear, but from frustration. I had the option to yell and throw them out, but I chose not to. I took an envelope, filled out a check, and made my way back. They remained present, murmuring softly, their heads lifting abruptly as I approached. I placed the envelope in front of Chloe, observing her fingers quickly grab it, her expression brightening for just a moment. She opened it, $73.50, the precise amount for a Greyhound ticket from Grand Junction back home, 15 years prior. Her smile faltered, her breath hitching. Stephanie snatched it up, shooting a fierce look. "What on earth is this?" she snapped. I moved closer, my tone calm and unwavering. "That was the price I would have paid to reach out to you that day. I did not. That's all there is to it." Chloe's mouth opened, yet no sound escaped. Stephanie thrust the check in my direction. "You're being really rude, Mike." In the end, I decided to sever ties with her. "In the end, you walked away from me. You chuckled. This is me showing my generosity." Isla recoiled, her fists clenching, yet she remained silent. I stood tall, observing them. Chloe was pale, Stephanie was fuming, and Isla was shrinking away. I announced it was time to go, my voice carrying through the diner. "Stay away." I pivoted and made my way to the counter, my heart racing, yet my steps confident. The waitress lingered, hesitant, but I gestured for her to leave. "They're finished," I remarked, reaching for a cloth to clean my hands. They lingered for a moment, taken aback, then quickly got to their feet, Chloe stuffing the envelope into her purse, Stephanie murmuring under her breath, while Isla followed closely behind. The door chimed closed, and the diner returned to its usual rhythm, coffee flowing, forks clattering, as if they had never existed. I positioned myself behind the counter, filling a cup, my hands now steady. They approached with desperation, believing I would yield, but I firmly turned them away. It was neither loud nor messy. It was simply cold, definitive. I took a sip of the coffee, its bitterness lingering on my tongue, while I observed the regulars engaged in their conversations, completely unaware. Chloe's tears and Stephanie's anger were insignificant. I provided them with what they had offered me, just enough to leave behind. The diner buzzed with energy. My diner, my world, and they had vanished. After wrapping up my shift, I secured everything and hit the road, feeling the burden ease with each passing mile. They made an effort, but ultimately, they were defeated. That was all there was. I rested against the diner's front window, the chill of the glass pressing against my arm, observing Chloe, Stephanie, and Isla in the parking lot. They had just burst out after I gave them that $73.50 check, bus fare from Grand Junction, nothing else, and now they were at it, bickering like children caught in the act. Stephanie was boisterous, her hands cutting through the air, her expression contorted as if she were ready to strike something. Chloe stood there, the envelope clenched tightly in her hand, gazing down at the ground, her shoulders drawn in. Isla lingered at the back, her arms tightly crossed, appearing as if she could either run away or break down in tears, perhaps even do both. Their voices were lost to me beyond the glass, yet it hardly mattered. They arrived pleading, believing I would relent, but I sent them away empty-handed. They were coming apart, and I simply observed, devoid of any emotion. The sun hung low, casting an orange hue over the lot, with their shadows elongated across the gravel. Stephanie pointed an accusatory finger at Chloe, her words spilling out rapidly, likely holding her responsible for bringing them here, for messing everything up. Chloe shook her head, weary and slow, then tossed the check into her purse as if it were refuse. Isla moved slightly, her gaze flickering towards the diner, momentarily locking with mine before quickly averting. I remained still, my gaze fixed, not a single movement or blink, while my coffee mug sat cooling on the counter behind me. They could battle endlessly out there. It had no impact on me. I had delivered what was due, put an end to 15 years of their nonsense, and that was the conclusion. I averted my gaze, clutching the mug and taking a sip, now cold and bitter. Yet it didn't matter to me. The diner had a serene atmosphere, with only a few familiar faces savoring their pie, while the jukebox softly played a nostalgic melody. I cleaned the counter, taking my time, allowing the cloth to absorb the remnants of the day. The waitresses flitted about, tidying up tables, casting me fleeting glances while remaining silent. They sensed something was off, those three coming in as I stepped out with that envelope, yet I chose not to say a word. "How's it going, Mike?" one inquired while arranging the plates. "Absolutely." I stated it clearly and concisely, then returned to my task of wiping. I was not interested in their inquiries, nor did I want to prolong the situation. Chloe and her team had left, and I was finished. As I made my way home, the truck's engine rumbled beneath me, the road shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the beams of my headlights slicing through the night. My hands clutched the wheel, my thoughts lingering on that moment. Chloe's expression upon seeing the check, Stephanie's sneer, Isla's quietness. It was supposed to feel satisfying to shut them down, and for the most part, it did. Yet, there was this persistent feeling, a small annoyance I couldn't ignore. They appeared hopeless, shattered, particularly Chloe, with her tale of how everything in her life had crumbled. 15 years ago, I would have been concerned, pursued them, attempted to resolve it. I just saw them walk away. The house appeared, lights glowing, Sienna's car parked in the driveway, and I exhaled deeply. This was genuine, my family, my existence, not theirs. I entered, tossing my boots aside at the door, the aroma of leftover lasagna enveloping me. Sienna sat at the kitchen table, papers scattered around her, pen in hand, likely grating once more. The children were upstairs, their voices faint, probably tucked in but still awake. She glanced upward, her glasses perched low on her nose. "Hello?" She spoke gently, then tilted her head. "Are you all right?" I nodded, took a seat across from her, and placed my hands flat on the table. They arrived. I mentioned, sticking to the basics. Her eyebrows arched, yet she held her ground. Chloe, Stephanie, and Isla requested financial assistance. I provided them with bus fare and instructed them to leave. She placed her pen aside, reclining slightly, her gaze unwavering as it met mine. "What's the cost of the bus fare?" she inquired, a faint smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I mentioned to her $73.50, the precise amount it took to return from Grand Junction all those years back. Chloe's expression changed completely. Stephanie's reaction was sharp, and I turned and left. Sienna sat quietly, her hand poised on the table, exuding her usual calmness. As I completed my task, she leaned in, her fingers lightly grazing against mine. "They can't take anything from you that you don't give them," she stated, her tone resolute and calm. I gazed at her, the weight of those words settling in, and gave a nod. "Yeah," I mentioned, "my throat feels tight." She tightened her grip on my hand for a moment, then returned to her papers, and I was left sitting there, feeling a slight relief from the weight pressing down on me. She had said enough. She understood it, understood me, and that was sufficient. Later, it was just the two of us enjoying the leftovers. The children are finally silent upstairs. I prodded the lasagna, my mind lingering in the parking lot. Stephanie shouting, Chloe watching, Isla retreating. It was irrelevant what they expressed out there, or whom they held responsible. They arrived seeking a handout, and I offered them a reflection instead. Sienna kept the conversation light, focusing on the kids, our son's recent math test, and our daughter's newfound passion for drawing cats. I grinned, acknowledged her, and allowed her to bring me back to the present moment. Once we finished cleaning up, her hip brushed against mine at the sink, and I felt a sense of steadiness return. That night, as I lay in bed, I could hear Sienna's breathing slow beside me. I gazed up at the ceiling. The house groaned, the children rustling in their rooms, and I went over it again. Those three in my diner, then out in the lot, breaking down. They couldn't reach this, my family, my diner, my essence. I closed the door firmly, secured it, and they remained on the other side, just where they should be. The itch lingered, subtle yet diminishing. Sienna was correct. They received nothing that I hadn't provided, and I had indeed given them the ant. I shut my eyes, letting the day fade, and fell into a deep sleep, finally free from their shadows. I found myself in the kitchen of our home, gently stirring a pot of chili on the stove as the aroma of spices enveloped the space. Weeks had passed since Chloe, Stephanie, and Isla entered my diner, since I presented them with that $73.50 check and observed their argument in the parking lot. I haven't heard from them at all. No calls, no emails, not even a hint on LinkedIn. They had truly left, and I could feel it, a silence that sank deep within, akin to a storm finally subsiding. Life continued its course, Sienna marking assignments at the table, the children darting around the backyard, the restaurant buzzing with familiar faces. It belonged to me, every bit of it, and they were powerless to take it away. I had ceased glancing back, ceased anticipating the next rap at the door. The chili simmered, steam wafting up, and I took a taste. Could use a bit more salt, perhaps a dash of pepper, for some extra flavor. Sienna looked up from her pile of tests, her glasses sliding down her nose. "It has a lovely scent," she remarked, beaming that subtle smile I adored. "It better be," I replied with a grin, and she chuckled, light and effortless. The children rushed in from outside, our son brandishing a muddy stick, while our daughter shouted excitedly about a bug she had discovered. "Both of you, out! Go wash up," I commanded, gesturing towards the sink, and they sighed, but complied, sending water flying in all directions. It was a whirlwind, noisy and disorganized, yet it belonged to us. Chloe's face, the tears she attempted to show me, diminished a bit more each day, substituted by this. The work was enjoyable as well. I moved from one diner to another, grilling burgers, managing inventory, and sharing laughs with the waitstaff. The locals recognized me by now. Old Tom with his coffee, the trucker who left a generous tip, the lady who consistently requested extra napkins. They would acknowledge me with a nod, saying, "Hey Mike," and I would return the gesture, feeling a sense of belonging. Jacqueline visited the first diner one morning, her tattoos worn but her gaze still piercing. "You didn't mess it up," she said, glancing around before giving my shoulder a reassuring clap and walking away. She offered high praise. I chuckled quietly while pouring coffee for a table, reflecting on my journey from being just a gas station, nobody, to reaching this point. I stopped keeping tabs on Chloe. No more pretending with social media accounts. No more late-night scrolling. I had experienced that before, a long time ago, watching her portray the sorrowful widow. But now, I wasn't looking for that information. She was out there, somewhere, navigating the life she had crafted after her business failed and her marriage fell apart. Stephanie and Isla as well, perhaps still upset, perhaps still holding her responsible. It was of no consequence. They would arrive pleading, and I would close the door. That 73 of 50 sounds check was the final thing I would ever offer them. Just enough to leave, just as they had left me. I felt no remorse, no guilt whatsoever. I experienced a sense of liberation. Sienna and I brought the kids to the park that weekend, enjoying a brisk fall day with leaves crunching beneath our boots. Our son dashed forward, kicking a ball, while our daughter held tightly to my hand, excitedly pointing at every squirrel she saw. Sienna strolled next to me, our arms lightly touching, and we remained quiet, simply observing, inhaling, existing. I took a moment to think about Chloe, her unexpected arrival, her voice trembling, and then I moved on. And she was unable to take this from me, not even remotely. I created everything on my own in spite of her, and it surpassed anything she had ever provided. "You're so quiet," Sienna said, nudging me. "Just content." I responded, and she tightened her grip on my hand, fully aware of my sincerity. Back home, we enjoyed the chili. It was quite spicy. The kids voiced their complaints, but they managed to eat it all anyway. I sat at the table, observing them squabble over the final roll, Sienna exasperatedly rolling her eyes at their commotion. This was it, the ultimate payback, if you could label it that way. It's not about a grand confrontation or boasting, it's simply about thriving and being authentic. Chloe wished for me to shatter, to retreat, but I stood my ground. I had turned my back on that gas station, on her, and continued on my way. Roy at the shelter, Jacqueline's diner, Sienna's laugh, these kids. Each step belonged to me. Every piece was hard-won. They were defeated, not due to my victory, but because I chose to withdraw from their game. Time passed in a blur. School drop-offs, diner shifts, and peaceful evenings spent with Sienna on the couch. I kept moving forward, no reason to glance back. Chloe lingered as a distant memory, a shadow forever out of reach. Occasionally, I'd catch a glimpse of her, a fleeting moment of her smirk, her tears. But it never lingered. I would increase the volume on the radio, grill a burger, embrace my daughter, and then she would disappear. The diners flourished. The kids developed. Sienna and I bickered over trivial matters, like whose turn it was to cut the grass. It was straightforward, chaotic, flawless. I would rise with the dawn, brew a cup of coffee, and gaze out at the yard from our kitchen, soaking in the moment. Tranquility, profound and unwavering. One evening, once the children were tucked in, I found myself on the porch, a beer in hand, the cool air brushing against my skin. Sienna emerged, cocooned in a blanket, and settled down next to me. "What are you thinking about?" she inquired, her tone gentle. I sipped, gazing at the stars above. "Zero." I spoke, then grinned. "All things." She rested her head on my shoulder, and we remained there, silent, in each other's company. Chloe had left, truly left, and I remained intact. The ultimate form of payback wasn't payback in any way. This moment, a life so fulfilling, I felt no need to justify anything. I had accomplished it, and that was sufficient. That's it for today's story. If you found it moving, don't forget to share the video with your friends and family. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.